Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to New Generation Woman. In our Espresso Talk today, I reflect with Sophia Kraus, my beautiful, wonderful, intelligent intern, on our last interview with Jared Franks. He is a coach and teacher to people who want to wake up. And this is what we talked about. We talked about how to overcome doubt and fear to be ready for a new relationship in your life. So here we go.
Hello, listeners. So I have a question for you, Jeanine, because I watched the talk with Jared, and you both said that underneath doubt, there always lies fear. And my first question would be, is fear always a bad thing? Like a bad thing that guides you?
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier, and I was thinking about it. And it is said, if you go deeper into the spiritual journey, that fear is only an illusion. It's just one thought, which is so absolutely unbelievable that it's just one thought because it's so real to us. But it, of course, takes a journey until we get there that we experience, and many of us might even not having experienced or slightly experienced it, or some will never experience it. But there is a journey towards kind of an awakening, and in the awakening, you realize there's no fear. Fear is just an illusion. So that is the ultimate goal. And that's what is said, that humanity will go to that awakening in sections and regions, and everybody will come to the realization there is actually no fear. It's all in our mind. It's all a made up thought that is a wrong thinking, but has nothing to do with who we really are and with reality. Now, this is way too far out in your age, also way too far out in my age, because we're still going on the journey and are in between stuff and see how fearful we are sometimes are, how fearful the world is. So on this journey where we are right now, or most of us, it is good to have some kind of instinct fears. So you're living in Vienna as a young, beautiful student. If you go out on Saturday night and you are by yourself and it's dark already, it's like 10 p.m., and you run into a group of drunk young men, I would absolutely say, listen, and you get afraid. I would absolutely say, yes, listen to your fear. Don't go into them. Don't go there. And maybe you have high heels and you have a short skirt. Don't do this. Run and turn away and go away. Or you see a dog and you feel that dog is like a really angry dog, and you don't go towards the dog. You just say, okay, I don't run away because I've been told to not run when there are angry dogs, but I don't go into them, or I don't look at him. That's also said, that people, if they see angry dogs, or, they're just trying to defend maybe their home, you don't look into their eyes. So these are fears, or if you have a sensitive feeling or fear of don't go there, don't do this, that's an instinct, that's an intuition that can come along with a common fearful feeling. That's something to listen to. But now let's make it more concrete. What are your fears, or what is your biggest fear right now?
I think like one of my biggest fears, and one of the biggest fears of my friends, of many of my friends as well, is getting into a serious relationship. I mean, we are all quite young and we don't have to be in a relationship right now, but this is like a huge problem in my generation, because there were so many divorces in our parents' generation, that we were brought up with with this bad feeling when it comes to relationships, because we didn't always experience relationships in a super positive way, like people that come from a stable background did, basically. And so this is a big fear in my generation that we always talk about, and I think it's like really hard to overcome this fear, basically.
Yes, I understand that. Do you feel that this makes you hesitant to go into a new relationship?
I don't really know. It's not something that I'm
It's
thinking
conscious.
of. No, 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 no. It's just something that is deep down there. So
Okay.
I am not afraid of it. Like, I'm not, in my head there are no thoughts and, oh my god, I'm afraid of this of getting into a serious relationship. But it's more like this strange feeling I get when someone is getting too close, and many of my friends experience that as well. Like, it's not really fear, but you just you are doubting it, actually, and you think, oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what you said. Yes. Yeah, you're doubting it. You're doubting. Are you doubting that there is a great relationship out there for you, or is it not that concrete? It's more like there's this underlying doubt or hesitance in believing in stable relationships.
Um, Both of it, I guess. So when we're talking about boys, for example, me and my friends, and
Mm.
we some of my friends, not most of my friends, but I think like about 50% of my friends come from families where the parents are divorced, basically. And when we're talking about boys, we're like, okay, no, no, this boy is not the right for me because actually I'm doubting it. But it's like with most of the boys, it is like this. And on the other hand, we were always discussing, do we actually need a relationship? Because we see that our parents don't have relationships that are going on for 20, 30 years, and they are most of the time they're
Mm.
actually fine with it. And so we are actually
Mm.
doubting if we as women today need a relationship, and that is the other side to it. So if we have doubts with every man that comes, because
Mm.
everyone has his flaws, and then there's this other side that we actually manage to get ourselves to think that we don't really need relationships. That's what makes it hard.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a brilliant point. I mean, this is why we're recording this, because I always do love your insights, your reflections, and your questions. And as I said, if I would have had those questions already in your age, I would have saved a lot of suffering. Um, No, that's a very good point. Do we actually need relationships? Well, if you're on a spiritual journey, on a more conscious journey in your life, and you become or have a certain awareness that you bring into relationships, into your work, you do not need anything actually. But again, this is the goal that you have. You strive to have a causeless happiness. So you're happy and joyful inside yourself, and everything that is in the outside comes as an additional piece. But it's not something you die from if you don't have it. So not needing a relationship is a wonderful part that I say you will be in a relationship very soon, because then those things happen. Very many women in my age, I don't know how it's in your age, are in a kind of a needy process sometimes. They do need a relationship. They would like to need someone to cuddle. Some women would love to be sexual. Some women just need the kissing, the cuddling, or the rescuer, or the one who finances, or the one who stabilizes. I think as long as you are in need of somebody else needing to make your life better, it is a red flag to be mindful about, because in the end it will never happen. It always comes as a consequence. Now maybe I have the man who finances my life, I have the rescue in my life, I have the cuddler in my life, but then if I'm not whole inside myself or am aware of that, I always pay a price, and that price can be very high. And I have never experienced anybody who came out of a need or insecurity or this is and seeing this, seeking this in a partner, and then being totally happy. Because as I said, it comes with a very, very high price. But if you come to an awareness, I am whole in myself. I would love to be in a relationship, but I don't have to be in a relationship. It's the best base to be aware. And sometimes, life throws you in bits and pieces. So some people do grow with as parents with their children. Some people do grow with in their work, and I think that because you're very interested in listening to other people's relations and seeing when people are in love and being happy with that, or observing when people are not in love anymore and they should be, in quotes, you are very observant, and I can see that you want to learn from that. So what it might be, if a new man comes into your life, first you're going to be happily ever after and you're going to be in the clouds, but you have experienced already in your young age a few breakups, so you might even be a bit more mindful than you have been in your first relationship. And you remember that when you were 15, you were very much in love. It was very new and very naive and came with all, this brightness and this joy. And then, of course, with the suffering and the pain. Now, having had a few different men in between, you are more mindful. You can say, this is what I want and this is what I don't want. But what you do, and this is the basic essence of this piece of Espresso Talk, you are growing. The relationship that then comes into your life is a growing part in your life. It's not so much about we are going to stay together happily ever after, we are going to marry, we are going to have kids. And when we are married, we're finally happy. I'm finally having everything in my life. I have a baby in my arms and nothing can harm and happen to me anymore. And that's a trick of the ego. That's not happening, because you do see that people who have been married and who have kids, and mainly in this generation or in my generation, it comes out before we have pretended it more. And people are not as happy as they thought they are. People are not as happy when they have kids. Maybe they're happy when the baby is like until 6 months old, but then the kid get older and then problems rise again. Then you see that the man you thought it's your rescuer or your happy pill has flaws, and he comes with demands that he puts on you, and he thinks you have flaws, and then the whole reality comes into place. And that's when the shit hits the fan, I always love to say. And that's when you can shift it. And that's when you can work on issues, and it brings stuff up. And it brings stuff up that you have experienced with your parents. They have been divorced or they are divorced. And that has left some doubts, questions, some pain. But that comes up in order to heal it, not to torture you. So when a man comes into your life, and you don't then have to be so frantic about it that it has to be the right one or the prince or, the gorgeous, aware, intellectual, all be able to discuss international, global young man. Yes, it can come in that form, and he will have flaws and he will have pains, and he had parents. And even if they had a stable relationship or are, they also have wounds. It's not happening that a human comes on earth and has no pains, has no wounds, nothing to heal. It's just not happening. It looks to the outside different. Maybe you say, oh, my parents just had more stuff to deal with than your parents. Or I had to deal with much more stuff than you had. You had all the money in the world. Your parents are still kissing each other. And I didn't have that. But, people are playing a role. And the kissing parents might be very unhappy when they're behind the scenes. So don't buy into that. I did this way for too long a time. And just see, what does it bring up in you? What kind of doubts does it bring up when you're in a relationship? Or what are your issues and your fears you do have along a relationship or along meeting somebody? And just observe it. Don't give it too much attention or go into the spiral to want to understand it intellectually. You can never grasp it, and you can never create the man beforehand. Mostly he comes in a very different form. But then, you walk with each other and you learn. And to complete this bite, it's like more, sometimes it's just a passage, and there's nothing wrong with the passage. There's nothing wrong with your parents that, hey, they have been divorced. They came together from a very different intention. And then the intention changed, and then people grow, and then sometimes it's completed, but it doesn't mean that it didn't survive, or it doesn't mean that it was a failure. And I've been divorced, and when my ex-husband left me, it was extremely important for me to grow. I'm a very different woman today. I would never been able to live all that potential I'm living today. And then I was also afraid, and I met different men before I met the man with whom I'm going together since 6.5 years now. But if you can see it from a little bit more often, don't identify too much with the woman in a relationship or with relationship, but see it as, this is a passage of growth, and it cannot torture me. It can only make me grow. Does it
Yeah,
help when I say
definitely.
this? Do you feel that in this mindset, because it's all attitude and the perception on relationship, in this case relationship, do you feel more liberated, more at ease, and say, okay, I can take that, I don't have to lose myself in a relationship, it doesn't have to be perfect, it can be completely unperfect, at the end I'm always learning, no matter what, it
Yeah.
can never fail
Yeah,
me. Does
definitely,
it help
definitely. But I think like
liberate?
we today we also have more liberated relationships because many people have a different mindset. Like in my generation, it's not the strict rules you have to follow to have this kind of stereotypical relationship, but you have more space to build a relationship that doesn't have to fit in society's rules.
Dear listeners, wherever you are in your life, please drop us a note about your concerns, about your fears, about your experiences on desiring a new relationship after you had breakups and even after divorce. Because I do believe that this is not about age. Sophia is 21 years young and I'm 52 years old. We have a little bit of different of experiences, and at the same time, we share the same fears. We share that we don't want to, fail, that we don't fall back, that we don't experience the same pains as we did before, and we do desire to be together with somebody. So this is about sharing stories, and Sophia and I, we do love to hear your stories, because we do believe in the wisdom and grace of stories, and stories are helping us. They are moving us forward in a more gentle and more softer way, and we feel connected. We feel, oh, it's not just me. She has also experienced that. Oh, luckily it is not just me. I thought already I wasn't good enough. I didn't good enough. It was my fault. Underneath there's always this guilt or resisting it. But let's share this. Let's help each other. And in the Course of Miracles, it is said, we just help each other to come home. And I love that. So if you want to hear my story on my knees to paradise in 7 days, you go to the text box below and you click on the link. And I also will produce 7 days podcast series and reading out my story to you. Yes, I was really afraid. I was almost too afraid to publish it. I thought I'm not going to have any friends left. This is way too real, way too honest. I really dropped my pants, so to say. But I said, this is not just for you, Jeanine. Your story is helping again somebody else. And here's her story is helping again somebody else. I had so many wonderful stories that helped me so much on the way to get up to my feet or back up to my feet again. So this is what I'm hoping. This is also why I'm reading out loud. And this was our Espresso Talk on New Generation Woman with my sweet intern Sophia and me, Jeanine Sophia. Bye-bye.